Web Air Disc Brake Technical Training. Module 1. Clamp Load.
So next, let's talk about how the clamp load's generated. The photograph that I've got here shows a cutaway of a caliper carrier rotor hub assembly. So you can kind of see all these components. We've got the hub down here. We've got this lighter gray color is a rotor that's mounted to the hub. Out here on the far right, we've got our air chamber. You can kind of see how the air chamber is set up. And in the middle, we've got our caliper. And so from a power flow standpoint, when the driver of this vehicle would step on the brakes, air would be forced into our air chamber, and it would push the backside of the diaphragm on the air chamber, which would push the push rod out where the blue arrow is with an F1 on it. And as that push rod is pushed outward here in an axial motion, this lever here inside the caliper itself, it would be rotated to the left here. And as that caliper's lever is rotated, what we get here, the lever multiplies the force of the air chamber by the difference in ratio from where this blue dot guide pin or push bar is on the tappet actuation block. And so what you get is a multiplication of the force, and as the lever rocks to the left, it pushes this actuation block to the left. The tappets are connected to this actuation block by a set of threaded tubes, and those tappets then would be pushed to the left by the lever and the push rod of the caliper, or excuse me, push rod of the air chamber. And those tappets would move left. They would interact with the air disc brakes pads, and then force that brake pad, the inner pad, into the brake rotor. And as that brake pad contacts the rotor, what you get is a reaction force, which causes the caliper itself to slide inward, which would drag the outboard brake pad into the brake rotor, creating a clamping force. And so the key takeaway here is that as the brakes are applied, the caliper, the initial reaction would be the inboard brake pad touches the disc, and then that reaction force causes the caliper to move and slide along its guide pins and cause the outboard pad to draw into the disc and create a clamp force. So you're essentially just clamping those brake pads between the rotor there. And that key feature here is that the caliper must float. If the guide pins are seized and the caliper doesn't move, what you'll get is an inboard pad contacting the rotor, and the caliper never will float over. And so your inboard pad will wear out prematurely. Your outboard pad won't do any of the work, which results in less braking force. And it also results in a quicker, faster wear on the inboard components, whether it be the brake pad and the rotor's inboard cheek. And then you'll wind up seeing that in the components as you take them off the vehicle.
That concludes this training session. Visit Web Wheels Training Toolbox for additional resources.